Fastlane 2018 is now in the books, as we have a clear path on the road to WrestleMania all the way down to New Orleans. So did SmackDown's final pay-per-view before the big day end up delivering more than Elimination Chamber did a few weeks prior, or will it fall in the doldrums like its red counterpart? The only way to find out is by analysing the living hell out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Fastlane review special of Wrestling Rant. We kick things off with a pre-show contest, because of course we have to, and I don't analyse them in depth because they don't matter. If you think they do, think about it this way. They're not on the main broadcast of the show, meaning that on the DVD, you're not going to see this first. So yeah, what's the point of analysing a match that WWE doesn't care about? Then again, the last-minute nature of it makes a lot of sense, as Ty Dillinger and the Fashion Police defeated Mojo Rawley and Gable and Benjamin in a solid yet unspectacular match. If I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it, 1.5 stars if that? Then again, I don't rate it, it doesn't factor in. Let's move on to what we all want to hear about, and that is of course the main freaking card. Starting off with Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Rusev in quite an interesting contest between two of the most popular guys on the roster today, one who is criminally underutilized and one who is criminally underexposed. Because seriously, Shinsuke needs more exposure in being able to crack some people's skulls open. Now, this was a 2.5 star contest, painfully average despite how fun it was. It was a very smart idea though for WWE to put this match on first, because it ensured that those two extremely popular wrestlers got the crowd on their feet and ensured that it worked out well for the rest of the night. Now, the story for this match was very minimal, mostly because this was a last-minute feud about whose day it's gonna be at the end of it all, and well, you can see how that went. The fact is though, the consistently loud crowd noise, the steady and quick pace, and of course, the hard-hitting action made it a very fun and watchable contest that, while it was lacking on depth, still surprised in a lot of ways. And considering that Rusev looked like a match for the King of Strong Style, that's a good thing, because you need to see Rusev looking good in defeat so he can then go on to bigger things once WrestleMania or the period goes after. And especially considering that Rusev nearly decapitated Nakamura, that kick to the head was insane. That being said though, while this getting so excited about that kick to the head, it just made me lose my concentration. The fact is, it was lacking in story to really go anywhere higher than 2.5 stars, but it's a very decent start to the pay-per-view. And it was one that it needed as well, especially considering how the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view started off with a really good match and then just tapered off after that. If it can keep itself consistent and match this, we're going to be in for a decent show. We go next, surprisingly, to the United States Championship match, because I thought this was going to happen later on in the evening, but WWE's booking decisions are weird, as we had Randy Orton defeating Bobby Roode to win the US Championship and complete his Grand Slam set. Then again, the Universal Championship isn't his yet, so a full sweep of WWE Championships is not yet on the cards. Superstar Shake-Up could change that, we don't even know. Now, many people split their opinion on this match, because some say it was exciting and fun, and others highlighted it was like watching paint dry. Well, I'm in the latter category because I gave it 1 star. The fact is, it started off slow, as you would expect, given the tension of what Orton and Rude were fighting for. It was a battle of supremacy, and wanting to get this amazing honour over the other. However, I was expecting it to spring into life at some point. Now, while it did with some very hard-hitting moves, especially that massive superplex, a sky-high one I will say, it just didn't get out of first gear. It trundled along, spinning its wheels in the mud, and was content with a very tense and very, very slow pace. It surely did pick up, but inevitably the fans just sat on their hands and waited for what they believed, I think, was the inevitable. The RKO from a shoulder tackle from the second rope, or was it top rope? I can't remember now, it's been a day or so since it happened, and my brain has been fried after the time shift made the pay-per-view happen earlier than it should have. Midnight till 3 is better than 1 till 4, but you kinda get my gist on this. The fact is, it stagnated and it just didn't really go anywhere. It dragged too long, and it was really difficult to actually enjoy it for me. It was a solid match that had some hard-hitting action, and both men matched their in-ring styles to give off some tension that has already been highlighted 3 or 4 times, because that's the main thing this match had to make it somewhat intriguing. But it just wasn't the home run sleeper hit that many would have wanted. Now I understand some people say, oh, this was really exciting. But for me, I was just sitting there going, can this just end already? They're not really delivering anything new. It's a standard in-ring contest from both men. It doesn't have the hype you would expect because it was built up over a top 10 list originally. It doesn't really come through. And 1 star is logically okay. It's fine. It's not poor. It's not abysmal, but it's alright. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it could have been a million times better. Then again, we had the great little sprinklings of teasing at the end of it when Jinder Mahal came out, attacked Orton and Roode, and of course Roode attacked both of them with the Glorious DDT, showed annoyance and irritants where it could signal a heel turn. I am hoping in that regard, because him as a heel would be fantastic, especially considering his NXT run. And overall, if he's trying to fight for a championship while being bitter and twisted from losing it, it's actually a good idea. And the fact is, this match could have been amazing. It could have been, but maybe if SmackDown would stop making bloody graphics go on screen and make a good story, we'd actually have something good to report on here. Regardless, at least it wasn't 0. And of course, I got the prediction right because people would have doubted Orton actually winning it now instead of WrestleMania, so go me! The fact is, it should have advanced a lot further, away from a tepid and nigh on terrible score that we got, but like I've said, it didn't, and I have to be somewhat positive of that, despite how low it managed to get. Next up we have a women's tag team contest, as Carmella and Natalya have defeated Naomi and Becky Lynch, in a contest that should have really started to get the momentum back following that long, near 20-minute slog that the US title match was. Unfortunately, despite the fact it had fast pace, it only gets 1/2 of a star. Not 1.5 stars, 1/2 a star. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when there is no story involved in a match made at the last minute, the results of its labours are going to be reflected in that. Now, while I said it was very fast paced and somewhat exciting enough for the crowd to get behind Becky Lynch and want her in it, which is where most of this score comes from, the match itself was a bit of a clusterfuck. Inevitably, because you had botches all over the place, it had no rhyme or rhythm in movement and direction, and of course, you had the sight of Carmella's thighs blocking a camera shot looking at taking Becky's top rope clothesline in good stead, which is not very good in the end. Not to mention the heels winning through cheating tactics, despite the fact they didn't really need to, but at the same time it's good, because the heels got their only outright victory on this card, like I predicted in the predictions video I made a couple of days ago. Go me! That's the thing though, this contest had nothing to it. It didn't last long enough to retain my interest, didn't have enough going on, despite a couple of little things to keep me interested in it for the smallest of terms, and of course, when you put something together so haphazardly at the last minute, you're going to have some problems. So as a result, this contest did its job at being the placeholder between 2 of the bigger matches on the night, but it didn't really do much else. That being said, we have to move on to a match now that everybody was looking forward to, the Usos taking on the New Day in a match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. One that ended in a no contest, and it was a 2-star contest as a result. Because it didn't really have a chance to go any higher than that. It was shaping up to be the usual high-octane, athletic, and incredibly fantastic match that the Usos and the New Day put on. And it was shaping up to be that way. It really was. Because you had the really good psychology of those teams utilising each other's moves, the pace was hectic, it was shifting offense on a dime, making both teams look equal to one another, and the crowd were into it, and I was enjoying it too. We were looking and shaping up for something great. Unfortunately, the Bludgeon Brothers came out and ruined it. But the fact is, my annoyance over that was then replaced by sheer joy at watching them completely destroy the tag team champions and their biggest rivals comprehensively by throwing them around like ragdolls and beating them within an inch of their PG no blood lives. Good lord. And the fact is, what made this even better is that the fans booed them. They booed the Bludgeon Brothers, not because, oh, they're not liked, no, because they wanted to see this contest achieve what it should do. And they were thinking, these these guys ruined this for us. You guys suck. And that is exactly what a heel team should do. Generate a negative reaction out of the fans because they have stopped us enjoying something or someone in the ring. And they're a natural rival. That's brilliant. That is storytelling coming out of a contest that when it was first announced, I thought, hold on a second, didn't they already do the Usos and the New Day? Why are they putting this on the show? This was done with this situation and scenario in mind to make the Bludgeon Brothers look incredible because they are going to be going into WrestleMania fighting for all those championships, and boy oh boy is it going to be a good one. The match, however, in retrospect, I'm thinking was good. It was fine for what it was, but I wanted it to be better because if it ended on a 3.5 star level like the normal ones do, then it would have been great. But at the same time, storytelling and psychology would not have played in to this. So it makes me more intrigued for the WrestleMania contest as a whole. SmackDown, good booking decision. Road Dogg, I would throw you a beer, but I'm not entirely sure if you drink them at this time of hour. Then again, whenever the hell this goes up, could be the morning or afternoon, depending, because time zones are in the toilet following what happened. Good Lord Almighty. Not happy with that. Next, however, we move on to, well, another championship matchup, Charlotte Flair defeating Ruby Riott. Now, I will say that this was Ruby Riott's best contest on the roster. Period. There's no doubt about this. But I'm going to give it 1.5 stars, and I know I'm not the biggest fan of Ruby Riott because I don't like her music. I find that her attire clashes with a lot of what's happening in her visual presentation on the Tron, and I feel that she's a little bit not interesting. I feel that she's a bit bland. But I'll give her props for putting in an aggressive and hearty performance that obviously we knew she was never going to win anyway, as Charlotte's risk-taking offense was expected, but unusually she felt pinned up against it. Of course, she had the Riott Squad on the outside, making the psychology ever so sweet. But of course, Becky and Naomi came out to help because their loss wasn't that important to them, I guess. And on top of that, well, the match was better than I was expecting, but considering Charlotte is only as good as her opponent in bringing out a contest, I feel the story of Ruby going aggressively against the champion to then not make it in the end was predictable as hell, and it meant that I was kind of phasing in and out of the contest. Because even though it was highly athletic and very hard hitting and had a very decent pace to go with it, it didn't last as long as I was expecting, and overall it dragged slightly because it became predictable, it became easily foreshadowable, and as a result I just didn't really have my head in it. Then again, 1.5 star from a women's contest is better than you'd expect considering some in the past. Then again, most in the past have usually achieved 2 or higher, if anything that. So in a way I would consider this a failure, but at the same time, it was better than the other women's match we had on this card, and I'm happy with that. However, there is one thing that makes this contest even better than you would expect, and that is because Asuka came out afterwards and lined up her challenge for Charlotte. Oh boy, we're getting the match that everybody wants, and that is all well and very much good. So, that's a very nice thing to end the women's contribution to the night on. Not as successful as Elimination Chamber, but my god has it got me excited. Bring on WrestleMania, baby! Hold your horses, Fred. Yes, I am talking to myself through the editing window, because I am obviously going to be watching this back, that you were a little over-exuberant. There is still one more contest to look at before everything relating to WrestleMania is set in stone, at least at the top of the card anyway, as we had the 6-pack challenge for the WWE Championship that AJ Styles won, but not in the way many would have expected, and damn was it exciting. This was a 3.25 star contest, the best of the night by far, as it was a fast-paced, momentum-shifting, entertaining clusterfuck that you would expect from the multi-man contest WWE puts out. Storytelling kind of goes out the window for high-octane athleticism and balls-to-the-wall action that makes you just stand up and cheer it if you're watching there live, or on television. So it did its job. And it went quite a distance as well, so I'm very happy with that. And there was also some very good inventive spots among finishes aplenty and use of minimal storytelling to really put the icing on this pretty decent match cake. And I'm going to eat it in good weather. Now the fact is, we did of course have Styles come out looking good despite the fact he was put through a table early on. He sprung out of nowhere with a phenomenal forearm and inevitably got the victory, which we all expected, but again, like I said, the way he did it, no one saw coming. Because they were thinking, oh god, it's Cena, oh god, it's Corbin, oh god, it was all building, and then bang, in came Styles on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with a lovely little forearm. It was lovely. And speaking of Zayn and Owens, they added the storyline sprinklings that we needed, and it went really long to build up that tension with it, because Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens did their shtick. Lying down for him, beating the crap out of each other, then super kicking accidentally Shane McMahon in the head, who then cost them pinfalls. This storyline between them ain't over, and it's going to WrestleMania, baby. This is good stuff. And it really rounded this contest out into a very fun one. A very good one at that, because 3¼ stars is fantastic, and it kept the crowd on their toes for its entirety. Now, I would have liked more story and a bit more move variety to really turn the wheel and make this go up to 4-star territory, but I don't care. It was a fun contest. It may not have been the most comprehensive on planet Earth, but at least it managed to keep me entertained. And that is exactly what I want a wrestling match to do. So that's pretty good. It is indeed, and we end this night, unlike Elimination Chamber, on a very good note, which is fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for me to pen my final thoughts to paper on this show and see where the WWE PPV landscape ends up pointing towards New Orleans in a month's time. Given the flaccid and extremely infuriating nature of SmackDown's weekly product going into this pay-per-view, I wasn't expecting much. Seriously, I think all of us are in the same boat on that one. However, unlike Raw, they delivered a pay-per-view that was somewhat stimulating, entertaining to a degree, and consistent almost across the board. So, Road Dogg, where the hell did your team spring that from? It started off pretty well and kept that stable foundation of momentum going throughout to enable all of these matches to be roughly the same in quality and inevitably make me feel really happy. I wasn't disappointed by many of the matches, even though there was a couple of stumbling blocks along the way to deliver what product you have. It was extremely predictable, I will admit, but it was still entertaining, and it delivered on most of what those matches could have done. So I can't be angry. Unlike Elimination Chamber, where almost every match on the card basically fell on their face and broke their noses in the process. And this is the thing that shocks me. This 6-bout card, full of matches that had no build, or if the build was there, it was pretty terrible, turned into something relatively decent. And that's saying something. I never saw this coming, and it makes my rhetoric in these final thoughts more stunted and incredibly beleaguered than usual, because I didn't expect this. No one did. They thought, oh, Elimination Chamber, Raw has to look amazing, but the pay-per-view sucked. So we just thought, oh, SmackDown and its poor booking means it has to go in that direction too. But they realised, SmackDown's booking team realised, sometimes we don't need stories. We have athleticism and the quality of our wrestlers to do so without it. They relied on their inhibitions and it bloody worked. It wasn't the best all-round card I've ever seen, no question about that. But it was one that I left with a smile on my face rather than being irritated and wanting to go to sleep at the nearest possible opportunity. That's the difference, people. You may put as much story into a match and build as possible, but you need to actually act on it. These guys had nothing to work with, and yet they still proved to be better than what Raw gave outside of the women. Because the women on this show had the worst matches outside of one. And yet, on Raw, on the Elimination Chamber, they had the best women's matches, but everything else went to the toilet. So, my brain can't really factor this. It's ridiculous. SmackDown beat Raw on the final single-branded pay-per-view. What? This is ridiculous, because usually Raw kicks SmackDown's ass on sole-branded pay-per-views, but holy crap, SmackDown, you knew when to put a small rabbit out of a hat. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, it just makes me more amazed. I know this is a below-average show. It's not the best thing ever, but it entertained me enough. It had solid matches from top to bottom almost, and it had surprises I didn't see coming, which Raw's predictable contests never did. So, I have to give plaudits to SmackDown here, because you surpassed my expectations when I had none to begin with. I'll give you a thumbs up, as Fastlane, ladies and gentlemen, gets a 4 out of 10. Now, considering all the hyperbole and the excitement I've had, that rating may not seem like it's actually that good. But the fact is, I expected this show to equal Elimination Chamber, and it doubled it. So, again, thumbs up for SmackDown. I'm now hoping that you get a decent amount of matches on the card for WrestleMania, because Raw honestly has too many matches to make the card extremely bloated. And considering last year at WrestleMania, SmackDown's matches basically ended where they started on the main card with Shane and Styles, I am hoping SmackDown gets the benefit of the doubt and is able to deliver some amazing matches. Then again, you have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. You have Charlotte versus Asuka. You have this amazing boiling pot that's going to explode in the Owens, Zayn, and Shane McMahon, Daniel Bryan thing, which has to go somewhere. I mean, not just that, you also have a Bludgeon Brothers, Usos New Day tag title match pretty much set in stone, and the potential of a Bobby Roode as a heel going after Randy Orton for the championship. I mean, you have turned what was, in my opinion, going to be one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen in recent memory, coming off one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen in recent memory outside of your own produced Battleground, and you've basically said to me, SmackDown's not dead yet. And again, I am shocked, because I did not see it coming. Predictability was thrown out the window, and I found that to be enjoyable as hell. Even though the show wasn't the most spectacular I had ever seen, I had to continuously point that the 4 out of 10 rating still stands. But at the same time, I am happy. I am happy that a show got 4 out of 10. I am happy that a show got Bret Hart's equivalent of a burn. That's... This video is probably going to go on way too long because I am just reveling in the insanity that this is. At the same time, though, we have to go on a route to insanity as WrestleMania is now fully in our headlights. Oh boy. I can't wait to go to New Orleans. I can't wait to experience the WrestleMania circus all over again. And on top of that, I can't wait to take you all with me as I will be doing some reaction videos and my predictions from my hotel in the Big Easy, and you're going to know exactly how I feel about everything as it happens. And you can have a little bit of an infomercial about what is going to happen by tuning in to Wrestling Rant this upcoming Friday. Yes, it's on Friday this week because I'm not going to be here on Saturday, and you'll be finding out what is happening with that, as well as Raw and SmackDown being reviewed in depth as per usual, and it's going to be great. I am hoping, because now WWE gets their foot into gear, and we'll be able to speed down that road with excitement. Fingers crossed, I hope. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out that Wrestling Rant episode, click the subscribe button down there with the bell notification icon so you do not miss it, because it's going to come by in a flash as WrestleMania builds up its steam and rolls on by. So, with that being done, what did you all think about Fastlane 2018? Did I overrate it? Did I underrate it? Whatever your opinions are, put them down there in the comment section. I'll be glad to read them. As like I've said, Wrestling Rant returns to regular operation, because this has given me a reinvigorated sense of hope for the Blue brand. Let's hope they don't mess it up. Then again, that's what this week's upcoming show on Friday will highlight. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching. This has been the Fastlane 2018 review for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.